see those bits come in. Oh my goodness, that happened fast. Boom! And we're live. You want the tweet action, Lewis?
I am prepared to accept the tweet.
Okay. Prepare your receptacle. This is coming in hot. You know what I did differently for this tweet? I decided to write it in a more conversational tone, almost like ChatGPT wrote it. And I think this is gonna make a big difference. So here,
tweet GPT.
That's my new service. It's artificially generated by myself. You just pay me $10 and I write you a tweet. Tweet GPT. It has absolutely nothing to do with machine learning, but it sounds trendy, so I think people will pay for it. That's the key.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Level
Oh
Remix.
my God.
Let's talk about savings, baby. Oh, we might do that, actually. You guys want the savings? I signed up for a new savings account. I could talk about it. And this interest rate, I'm telling you guys, is out of control. I'm not even sure it's legal. The only one that I saw that was better. I just saw one this morning. It's the best one I've ever seen. But
yeah,
it takes a lot of effort, I feel like, to make it work. And you have to buy U.S. Treasury bonds. They're doing short-term Treasury bonds, so they mature in like 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and they're paying like 5.5%. But then you got to like move your money into a Treasury bond, and then when that expires, you got to move it somewhere else. It's just a lot of moving money around. I would rather take a smaller rate and just leave it somewhere, just dump it somewhere and leave it.
It's very simple.
There we go. Now the views are coming in, Lewis. Whew, look at that.
Unlike the tweet.
What, did the tweet not come out?
How hard is it to press the button? Come on.
The button has been depressed.
God.
Yeah. Fieldy says, yeah. That might be my best one yet. I don't want to hear nothing about it, Lewis. The tweet is out, Lewis. I don't know. I mean,
there it is. I don't know why it didn't show up.
Can you get your coat cloth and wipe down those glasses?
Hey, look, there's the same picture of us once again. Let's keep using that.
Well, it's a good one.
It's so good that
if it ain't broke, why fix it? Okay. All right, guys. I think we're ready to roll. Let's get this thing going. If you guys are all ready. Let me see. Yeah, I think we're ready to rock and roll. So let's get that frown turned upside down, Lewis. Pretend like you're excited to be here. There you go. That's better.
Yeah.
I'm gonna queue up.
You know, I can't type and talk or do nothing.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's great, and it's like the video just froze up or something, right?
You got typeface going there. You got El Caney typing face.
Resting typographer face.
Resting typeface. All right. You got a mean-looking resting typeface, I have to say.
Still wonder people are terrified.
That and your thumbs are permanently stained red from all the plunging into eye sockets you do over there at the Cult of Mac World headquarters. All right. Let me queue up Mrs. D, and we'll get this thing rolling. Are you excited about the 15-inch MacBook Air? I should probably answer that on the show. Let's go ahead and queue up Mrs. D. Oh, Mrs. D. Oh, Mrs. D. You are excited. Oh, yes, I did a bit of plunging action myself with El Caney last night. Gross. Look at Griffin's face. Stoic. Not even a reaction. Nothing from Mrs. D talking about our dear leader like that. God, I don't even want to know what you guys are doing over there together. Mrs. D, if you don't mind, let's get to the Apple stuff. I definitely don't want to hear about your erotic escapades. Sexcapades with El Caney. She's probably helping him use that big, giant bag of narcotics that he found. Oh, yes, my dear. And there was lots of ecstasy. Oh, no. Keeps getting worse. Well, Mrs. D, if you don't mind,
heavens.
Lewis is becoming nauseated by your commentary about your relationship with El Caney.
That reminds me, last night at the darts bar, they had a new sign right on the urinal. It says, "Do not flush vomit or solids down." I said to the guy, I said, typically when I'm about to vomit into a urinal, I'm not capable of reading a sign like this.
Nor would you actually pay that sign any mind. If that's your only option.
Excuse me, Just a moment. This is not the right place to vomit.
Oh, maybe it's for the guys who have never encountered a urinal and they try to use it sitting outwards instead of facing it.
I was really
That sign is there.
stoned.
It like plants the seed in your brain before you go there to vomit. So you see that earlier in the night, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I know to go somewhere else later."
Man, I was really taken aback.
All right, look, this is a fascinating conversation, but our viewers are precipitously dropping. Let's go ahead and get the music
I can't
going.
blame them. It's disgusting.
We'll get this thing going in 3, 2. Oh wait, I almost did it again. Sound effects. 3, 2. Hello and welcome to CultCast, the best 30+ minute Apple conversation you're gonna hear all week long. I'm your host, Eric from Elijah. Join me today. After years of headbutting writers who haven't spell checked, he's developed a thick callus on his forehead and hardly even feels the impact now. Sometimes he'll even grab onto their ears and so he can better steer their heads in what he calls the correction zone. He's the managing editor of CultCast. Lewis Wallace is here.
Soon I'm going to look like a rhinoceros.
What's up with us? Every morning when he gets up, he lays out his ghillie suit and his camo face paint stick in case Lewis Wallace comes looking for him. He needs to quickly blend in to the bushes and trees near his home. He's the newest writer at CultMac. Griffin Jones is here. Oh man, I put some extra pizzazz on that one, Griffin.
I wasn't sure when you were going to end there. Just kept waiting.
I actually wasn't sure either.
Looking for an insertion spot.
I don't know what my brain's going to give me. I just say, brain, give me the best that you got. And I just go with it. Just comes out of my mouth. And sometimes it works. And many times it really doesn't work at all. All right, my friends. Well, we have a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Let's see here. Should I bring up the notes? Why not? So we're going to be talking about Apple's major sting operation. This is one of the craziest stories I've seen in a long time. And it was one of the top stories on the site. So we figured we'd talk about it. Apple's Tyrion Lannister style sting op to catch a leaker, and they caught one. They caught a new leaker who is quite popular, and this poor guy was in the Mac Rumors forums, giving the details of what's going on in his life now that Apple's caught him, and dude, it's terrifying. So if you're a leaker, I don't know, this one might scare me straight, honestly, and it only affirms my conspiracy theory that Mark Gurman, he's talking directly to TC. He's getting those leaks directly from TC. Because I don't know how his sources are not getting caught, but everyone else's seems to be. I think it's because he's getting it from the source, the architect himself. We're going to be talking about Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro finally coming to the iPad. There's a lot to talk about here. There's new features. I think that there are some things that we can gather from these new updates that might affect the Mac version of Final Cut Pro. We'll talk about the subscription model, which I'm not thrilled about. And we'll talk about some features that might end up working their way into the next iPhone. We got a new giveaway to do, and I'll tell you why it might be the best time ever to buy a new Mac. I think all the stars are aligning, and Apple has a lot of discounts going on right now, and I think that they're doing it for a specific reason. And if you haven't been following me on Twitter, I've been posting some of these. None of them are affiliated, so I don't make any money from any of these. I just see them, and I'm like, wow, that's a great deal. Like one of the ones I recently saw for a 14-inch MacBook was the best Mac deal I've ever seen. Like it was $1,400 off a 14-inch MacBook Pro. I mean, it was bonkers. It only lasted one day, if even a whole day. So we'll talk about some of those deals, and then we're going to finish off with a story about a stealth startup that is staffed by a bunch of ex-Apple employees. And they've got a new, I would call it a somewhat strange product that they claim is going to be an iPhone killer. I don't know about that, but Griffin's going to talk to us about the company, the product, and why people actually are paying this any attention at all, because it was like another popular story on the site this week. So we got all of that lined up for all of you and more. Before we dive into all the fun, though, let me go ahead and pull this up. I want to give a thank you to electricebikes.com for supporting this episode. My friends, Mother's Day is coming up, and most gifts that you get your mom are complete trash. They're completely overrated. And she pretends to like them, but secretly she's like, "This is it. You gave me some petunias, and that's all I get." Consider getting her a real bike, a real gift. Consider getting her a electric e-bike. Do I have this up? Oh, good. Yeah, I do. So Electric sent me an e-bike. They sent me the XP 3.0. And the thing with Electric is they have premium bicycles, e-bikes, at what I would call value prices. I don't know how they do this, but they have premium bikes that are actually affordable, and you'll be surprised just how affordable they are. Like I said, they sent me the XP 3.0, and it has a beautiful paint job. It's built like a tank. The whole thing's metal. Like even the fenders are metal, which is an area that I tend to look at because that's an area where e-bike companies will cheap out because people don't tend to really care about the fenders. But everything about it is top notch. They have a beautiful screen on the bike. It rides like a smooth wind, and it's also foldable. It's also compact, so it's easy to take with you wherever you go. You can spec out this thing with all sorts of accessories. You can put a seat on the back for your kid with a handlebar for them to hold on to. You can put baskets on the front and the back, so you could turn this thing into a serious cargo bike. So you can make this thing fit your lifestyle. And no joke, you could replace your car with one of these things if you wanted to. And if you give one of these to mom, rather than driving around in the car, all those short trips that she does, she can just ride around on her bike. And if she's got young kids, you can attach a car seat to the back. And she could even take a kid with her on the go. It's a great way to get exercise, and it's a lot of fun. And especially in these warmer days that we're having upcoming, it's just a really fun way to ride all around your city. And they've got a bunch of different bikes too. Like I wanted to show this one. I would actually love to check this out. Let's see here. It's a trike. They have a trike, and it's only $14.99. And I say only because I have never seen a trike this inexpensive. Like normally trikes are like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 because they're kind of specialized. And dude, I would love to cruise around the city on one of those. Look at that giant basket in the back. You could carry all sorts of stuff back there. Groceries.
Keg of beer.
You probably could carry a pony keg back there. At least a pony. I don't know about a full. I can't tell how big that basket is, but maybe a whole keg. I mean, look at that thing. That thing's awesome. And also,
that does look good.
I know.
Foldable?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah. So you could put it in. You could put it in your car. That's the other thing that I like about these bikes is you can put them in your car and take them with you. And most e-bikes, you can't do that because they're just enormous, and you have to have like a specialized bike rack in order to take them around with you anywhere. And those specialized bike racks are outrageous. They're like $500, $600, $700 for an e-bike rack because they have to carry a lot of weight. But this thing, you can just fold it up, toss it in your trunk or in the back of your minivan or something. Anyway, I'm going on and on and on and on and on. The Electric also has financing, so you can finance this thing and have a low monthly payment. You can check them out at electricebikes.com. Electric, that's LECTRICE bikes.com. And check out all their different bikes. And if you've been thinking about getting an e-bike, I just couldn't recommend this more highly. It's a great way to get all around, and it's a lot of fun to ride as well. Great exercise, too. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into the first story. I'm sending this to you, Lewis. This story is amusing, but it's also kind of sad. I can't help but say I kind of felt bad for this guy. I mean, he seems like he's in serious doo-doo right now. And I wouldn't want to be on this side of Apple's legal team because they're not happy with him.
Yeah, well, it may not be a guy. We don't actually know that. We don't know who this is. This person is a leaker.
I believe he said he has a sister. So I
the
believe
leaker said
have sisters
they have a sister. Yeah, it doesn't.
I thought he said. I thought he indicated his. Let's see here. Okay, well,
I don't want to get bogged down with
this. This doesn't matter. Okay, I guess go ahead.
I'm just going to refer to the leaker as a leaker, and the leaker went by Analyst941 on Twitter, and they've been leaking a lot of things lately about iOS 17. I think they came onto the scene last year with the dynamic island, right? That was the first claim to fame for this leaker. I believe. And this week, suddenly his now see, you got me doing it. This leaker's Twitter account goes away, right? Deleted the account. It looks like Apple laid a trap called a canary trap. You ever heard this term, canary trap? It's like a spycraft thing, and it's where you give different people on your team different information, and then you suspect, like I suspect that you or Griffin, one of you is leaking secret Cult of Mac information, right? Like
I would never.
The special sauce that makes everything so fantastic at Cult of Mac. And I tell you, hey, we're going to redesign the site and it's going to go live on Wednesday. And I tell Griffin, hey, it's going to go live on Sunday. And then some competitor publishes a story saying, hey, it's going live on Sunday. Boom, I know that Griffin's the leaker, right? So
it's straight out of Game of Thrones, dude.
It's sneaky. And Leander wrote in our newsletter yesterday about this, and he was saying that he was talking with an Apple exec years ago about that, and saying, hey, does Apple do this kind of stuff? Because there's another leaker that was busted ages ago. What was it called? Think Secret, I think. Yeah.
Oh man, I haven't heard that name in forever. Wow, that's funny.
That guy, his website got shut down, and Leander was asking this guy, this Apple exec, about it, and he said, no, Apple doesn't do that. Apple doesn't have time to do that kind of sneaky,
well, they didn't used to.
Spycraft kind of stuff, right? But supposedly that's what happened here. This guy now see, this person had leaked.
Look. 99.5% of our audience are men. So
that doesn't.
I'm so sure.
I don't want to be inaccurate.
Okay, you don't want to be presumptuous, sure, but yeah. I mean, if I had to put my money down on it, I would say it's definitely.
It is another unfortunate consequence that there are a lot of men in tech, and especially tech journalism. But that being said,
yeah, I mean, I look at my YouTube metrics, and it's like, I'm like, is this broken? I'm tapping on the screen, it's like 105% male. And I'm like, I don't even know how that happens. How do you go above 100%? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
well, so anyway, this leaker had let out a bunch of stuff that's like coming in iOS 17 and Apple Maps, stuff like that. And in fact, they said that Final Cut Pro was coming to the iPad in 2024, and Logic Pro was coming to the iPad in 2025. And apparently, these deliberately incorrect dates were given to this person's source inside Apple, and that's how Apple trapped this person and figured out who they were. And so this person also had been posting on Mac Rumors Forum. They did a goodbye post that basically laid out their whole story, right? And then that they deleted that. But I'll just read a little bit of that. This is we have a screenshot on the site of this thing. This is my final message to everyone. I will no longer be around, but you deserve a proper goodbye. I don't want to share too many details right now because of the legality of things, but a multi-step sting has gotten my sister fired from Apple, and unfortunately, I'm afraid next is legal action being taken against both of us separately. Somebody was saying that one of the reasons that like this guy was, or this person was a little bit like hasty leaking all this stuff out, right? And they weren't being careful enough, and that's like their downfall, right? But this doesn't really make much sense, or it's kind of weirdly worded. But he says I cannot stop doing it now. Thanks, Irfan. The leaker wrote, the breaking point was multiple, if not almost all, who knew about FCP, Final Cut Pro, Logic, iPad development was given a unique combination of release dates. Unfortunately, the combination I shared on Twitter matched the combination given to my sister as the FCP and Logic timeframe, along with other small factors. I may have shared too much here regarding the situation already, but goodbye. Thanks for taking time to meet me, learn from me, and don't let it happen to you or anyone you love. So now this person is gone, until they turn up in court, if they do. I mean, who knows if Apple actually will sue the leaker or
I don't know.
Sister, who was apparently the inside source.
Yeah. Boy, isn't she pissed too? She loses her career, gets fired.
Working remotely 2 out of 5 days a week.
Yeah, now she's full-time remote.
I've seen speculation that this is a person in the Apple PR department or marketing department. It's just wild. It's wild to think that Apple is setting this kind of stuff. But we've talked about this before. I mean, was that? It seemed like Prosser got burned, maybe in the same way, right? With some of those leaks about the Apple Watch.
I don't know. I mean, he used to. I feel like he used to try to break stuff more often, and I don't know how much that happens these days, but it does seem like spycraft, man. It's like you just don't know. I mean, Apple, they are a sophisticated company. They probably have all sorts of tactics and experts that they consult with on how to capture people that are doing this within their company. I mean, it would be scary, especially as like a person who's just entering journalism for the first time and you don't really know how any of this works. And you don't want to burn anyone, and it's difficult because you don't have the resources that Apple has available to you. Again, this kind of goes back to my original point about Gurman. How is he able to stay sourced for so long, man? None of his sources seem to get burned. Maybe they do, but we don't hear about them. But I think
someone of his caliber probably has like a whole swath of sources.
Yeah, and
not just one.
Yeah.
If you note in his stories, a lot of times, if not all times, I would not say 100%, but typically he's referring not just to one person, what one person is saying, right? He checks and double checks, and he's got a team of copy editors and editors and stuff working on his side.
Yeah, but man, he was doing that before he got to Bloomberg. He was doing this at a high school at 9 to 5 Mac.
Yeah, if you remember talking to Prosser, he was talking about being really careful with this stuff too, right? Because there's all these things that you could potentially get your source burned, and that's the last thing any journalist or leaker wants. You don't want your sources to go away. That's death. So
yeah. All I'm saying is if you did a family tree on Gurman, I don't think you'd have to go up too high before you found a cook in that tree.
Wow.
I don't know if it's like
go to Ancestry.com and start typing in Gurman.
That's what we should do as a segment. Think how great of a segment that would be.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
We do a Ancestry.com live on the show of Gurman to figure out who he's related to at Apple.
God.
It's like, who's this? Gina Wozniak. Gotcha. Okay. That's all I'm saying, man. Because everyone else's sources seem to be getting burned except for Gurman's. All I gotta say is something's up with that. I'm not saying what, but there's something up with that. Oh man. Well, anyway, I feel really bad for this person. The person seems young, and I would not want to be in a predicament where you are having to deal with Apple's legal team. I imagine that they probably will not sue him. I mean, the fact that he has pulled the Twitter account down, the Mac Rumors account has been deleted essentially. It seems like they're basically like, pull the stuff down, quit it, and we'll leave you alone and never do this again, would be my guess. I don't think Apple they don't seem like they're that vindictive. I mean, yeah, I think this person needs to be careful because TC has a whole selection of piano wires that he likes to employ in these situations. And you may get disappeared and no one will ever know what happened to you. But I don't think that Apple's legal team would go after you. That they seem to reserve that for very extreme scenarios where they've warned you and you continue doing it, or you have like a popular website or something, But
yeah, I mean,
what case would they have against Analyst 941? Because his sister is an employee who leaked information and presumably broke an NDA. Like that's a clear-cut case. But
yeah,
it's not like Analyst 941 has signed an NDA with Apple. What law is he breaking?
I don't know, man. I mean, they can come up with all sorts of crazy arguments. Like I was selling. This is just anecdotal, kind of related, but not really. I was selling a product on Amazon. Just a product that you can get. It's not like something that's like an illegal substance or anything. And they
care to elaborate?
I got contacted by the company that sells this product, and they said I was violating their trademark in some way for selling this product because they only allow their product to be sold in a specific way. So that's why I allude to like it's not a controlled substance. I'm like, dude, you can buy this product in many places online. So it's not like it's a pharmaceutical product or something, or like a bullet or something. It's like, it's just a product. And I ended up not selling it anymore because what are you going to do? Get a lawyer? Like, what is this? What is this person going to do? Apple's legal team is breathing down your neck, what are you going to do? Try to fight them and pay some lawyer $500 an hour so that you can maintain your standing in the Mac Rumors forum. So, unfortunately, if Apple comes after you, I'm going to guess 99% of the time people just fold because you just don't want to have the stress and the financial strain of fighting them for what gain. It's like it doesn't do you any good. Besides, it makes you look good on Twitter.
This person already did fold, and the other thing, I should read this part of his little goodbye note. He the person's good. I swear to God, I've got some kind of mental problem with this. I can't believe I did this. The person wrote, "I'm so sorry to my sister and Apple as a whole. I don't know what else to say. I know she is destroyed. She also hates me right now. Like, I don't even know that I have a sister anymore." So,
wasn't she participating? I mean, did she not know what she was doing?
Who knows about that? I mean, you would think so. But I mean, that the leaker, the inside source, has been punished, and I think punished. Like, I don't see any upside for Apple doing more to these people, right? What are you going to do? I mean, she's already got a resume that says, I was employed from here to here at Apple. And, the first question, why'd you leave Apple? Oh,
I was leaking state secrets.
Not a great look.
Creative differences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought it'd be great if everybody knew what Apple was going to release. That was my greatest joy. I love the product so much. I just love getting the information out there. So that person's their career is in the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
The leaker him or herself is now, self-evaporated. So yeah, that's a great story though. A very, very interesting turn of events.
Yeah, you don't normally hear about these leakers getting busted in such a public way, and we would never have known unless this person had posted on the Mac Rumors forums, which was also not a smart thing to do because anything that you post, they're going to use against you. So most people just go silent, right? When there's legal issues, like people generally just go silent. They don't want to talk about it. So this person probably maybe got themselves into even more trouble by going on there and complaining about this. Otherwise, we may never have known. So if you're going to leak stuff, got to be careful, man. You got to get it straight from the source, like some Apple journalists do, straight from TC. Helps if they're your uncle or you used to dog sit for them or something. Any last points before we move on here, Lewis? You look like you're about to say something.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, if anybody has any leaks they want to share with us.
Now, if you have some leaks,
DMs are open.
This is a great time. Yeah, right. This is a great time to ask for people to send us leaks.
One of the things that was weird about that story was the whole time frame thing, right? Like the 2024, 2025. I mean, it just seems odd, and it's sort of like, well, why would they even believe that? But you know what I mean?
Sorry, go ahead.
Just kind of an odd thing to get tripped up on, right?
Yeah. Some of the chat is saying, couldn't they have sued or subpoenaed the Mac Rumors forums? I don't think so, because Mac Rumors isn't doing anything. They're just supplying a forum, and people are talking about stuff. So, I mean, they could have tried, but I mean, that's a thing. Look, I hate to keep beating this to death, but that's a thing. Like, there are a lot of things that are illegal and not legal, but none of that matters when you get a letter from a high-powered law firm. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're in the right, as I believed I was when that company asked me to stop selling their product, I'm like, this is absurd. Like, how am I violating your trademark by selling a legitimate copy of your product that I purchased through the supply chain that you sell through? Like, but they don't care about that. Like, this situation was constructed in such a way that it was clearly just a fear tactic, right? Like, they weren't trying to make an argument that they could win. They just wanted you to stop, and they wanted you to know that if you didn't stop, then you were going to have to incur legal expenses. So anyway, all right, let's move on. Let's talk about Final Cut Pro coming to iPad, Logic coming to iPad, something that we've talked about forever, and I had completely forgotten about because it had been so long since we had talked about this. And then out of the blue, Apple unveils Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro for iPad. And the first thing that I kind of came to my mind, and I think several other people online, I saw this kind of same commentary, is they're doing this ahead of WWDC, which to me indicates that it's going to be a packed show, man. Like, if they had to release these things in a press release ahead of time, then they just had no time for them at the actual keynote, which means it's going to be jam-packed, dude. And I'll just kind of cruise through some of the highlights of these two apps. I'm not going to cover everything, obviously, because I know a lot of people don't use Logic or Final Cut Pro, but I do think it's interesting that these are finally on iPad, and I think these are really the only two apps that are going to leverage the power of the iPad. And Lewis, you brought something up earlier that kind of came to mind too, and you kind of scoffed. You're like, who would want to use these apps on the iPad? Now, I'm with you on that, but I don't think these apps are built for us. These apps are built for the new generation of creators, people who release directly to TikTok, directly to YouTube, especially TikTok. And they don't need to use a computer. They don't even want to use a computer. They don't want to like pull a SD card out of their camera and put it into a computer. Like that's old school for a lot of these creators. They want to create everything on their device, edit it on their device, release it from their device. That is the world of TikTok these days. And so I think for those people, these are going to be compelling apps. And I think that's who these apps are aimed at, because if you have like an actual professional workflow, if you have like a powerful camera that you use to film all your content, this is going to be a giant pain in your rear. Like you can't actually use Final Cut Pro with external hard drives. You know, like that's pretty basic for a video editor, and you can't even do that on the iPad. And they're giving you all these camera controls in Final Cut Pro. So I think that the reason that they're doing this is because they want to give people the tools to actually use their iPad as a content creation machine. So let me see here. Let me go through some of the actual highlights. Final Cut Pro. So it has a new jog wheel that makes the editing process easier than ever. I'm reading these points from Apple, by the way, and lets users interact with content in new ways. I actually think that's the exciting part about Final Cut Pro for iPad, is now you're going to be using your hands to manipulate the timeline and all that kind of stuff, and you have access to the Apple Pencil. In fact, there's one feature that lets you literally write on the video and then stretch that writing into an animation on your timeline, and you can like make it shorter or longer, which actually is really cool. They also have a feature that lets you dynamically remove backgrounds and replace them with other kinds of backgrounds, which is a feature I don't think that Final Cut has, or at least it's not executed in the same way.
The jog wheel, I'll say, is a pretty important user interface thing to adapt Final Cut for the iPad, because if you've used Final Cut, you know that there's, especially if you try to reduce Final Cut to a touch interface, there's a lot of different kinds of swiping that you can do, whether you're scrolling through the timeline, trying to resize the timeline, or trying to edit clips on the timeline. So the jog wheel is a way of differentiating between a lot of the different kinds of controls that you might want to do on a touch interface. Because on the iPad, there's no difference between like moving the cursor and clicking like there is on a Mac.
I mean, it looks like a really interesting way of interacting with Final Cut Pro, and I'm really curious to see how the pencil works. So the only person that I've seen talk about this really was iJustine, and she actually did like a pretty decent whoops, I don't want to have volume here. She did a pretty good job doing an overview of like the features and like showing you. I'm trying to actually get to a place where, oh, there we go, where they're actually using Final Cut Pro. So you can see here, like you could do an animation based off of drawings that you have made with your Apple Pencil. She's pretty much one of the few people that I've seen actually get their hands on the app. It doesn't come out until May 23rd. That's for Logic and for Final Cut Pro. And I don't know how many people they gave access to Final Cut Pro and Logic. It kind of seems like they're still working on it since so few people actually have access to it. But she does a good job going over the basic features. Let's see here. What else? Users can speed up workflows by adding a Magic Keyboard or Smartfolio to use key commands. Creators can view and edit HDR video. Pro Camera Mode lets you shoot high-quality video in portrait and landscape orientation, monitor audio and available recording time, and manually control settings like focus, exposure, and white balance, Apple says. I have some cons listed here. Limited interoperability between Mac and iPad versions. So I think that you can move a a Final Cut Pro timeline from the iPad to the Mac, but I don't think you can move it from the Mac to the iPad. So they don't really play well together. It's like they're two completely different solutions. And then the last thing, obviously, is the subscription price, which I think was kind of a slap to the face to a lot of us and made me almost completely uninterested in Final Cut Pro and Logic, because they're $5.99 a month each or $50 a year each. Now, I think putting that price in place is going to eliminate these as tools for most people because they just don't want to pay. But if you're like a serious creator or you make a lot of videos on TikTok, then $5 a month is actually not that bad, or it's $4 a month, I think, if you pay yearly. So in that case, I actually think that these might be really great tools for people who are mobile only. So if you only create content on the fly, I think that these tools actually might be really wonderful tools for you. I haven't seen as much for Logic. Most of the content that I saw revolved around Final Cut Pro. So I don't really have a full opinion on Logic yet. I'm waiting to see what you can do with it and whether it's something that I could leverage, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Griffin? I know that you did some research into these as well.
I mean, the thing about the subscription price is that it does lower the barrier to entry. Like, if you're a kid, it's hard to convince your parents to buy you an expensive iPad with an M1 chip processor and then convince them to let you buy like $500 worth of software if we were to take the Mac prices, which are $300 and $200 respectively. But it's a lot easier to say, hey, with this iPad, can I spend like $5 on this app for this month? For if you just want to try it out. And plus there's like a 30-day trial as well. So it lowers the barrier to entry in that regard.
Yeah, and it's going to give a whole new level of creativity to an entire new generation of editors who, it's weird. I can't get into editing on mobile and only using my iPad camera to film stuff. I have this thing where I'm like, I have to use a nice camera. I just can't use my iPhone. But for a lot of people, they just don't care. And I would say for most people watching, they also don't care. The content is really all that matters. It doesn't matter if it was filmed on a Red camera. Now, I like content that was filmed on Red cameras. I think one of the reasons Marques Brownlee is so successful is because he uses top-notch cameras. Like, all of his stuff looks absolutely beautiful. But you don't need to do that if you're getting started, and you don't need to do that if you're creating content for TikTok. I think you could create really compelling content without super nice equipment, and these tools are for those users. I also think that these changes indicate updates that are coming to the Mac version of Final Cut Pro. I think what's really weird is Apple has been working on these mobile versions and creating a whole new paradigm for editing, and the Mac version of Final Cut Pro and Logic have essentially been untouched for I don't even know how many years now, 5, 6, 7 years. And I think that these changes are an indication of what might be coming to the Mac version of Final Cut Pro. At least I hope so, because one of the biggest problems with Final Cut Pro and Logic is that Apple almost never adds new features. And meanwhile, you have Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, which is becoming like one of the best editing apps, video editing apps out there. And every week I see new videos on YouTube about why people are switching from Final Cut to Resolve. They're switching from Premiere to Resolve. They're switching from this to Resolve. Like, everyone's switching to Resolve, it seems like. And Resolve is the same price as Final Cut Pro. Actually, that's not true. The Pro version of Resolve is the same price as Final Cut Pro. The regular version of DaVinci Resolve, which includes the entire coloring suite that's used in like Hollywood professional films, is free. You can download it and use it for free, which is kind of bonkers. So there's zero barrier to entry there. And I'm not sure if they have a version. Do you know, Griffin, do they have a version that works on iPad? I'm actually not sure about that.
I'm not anywhere in the realm of DaVinci Resolve. I actually switched to Final Cut and Logic. I switched to them from Premiere just like 2.5 years ago. So I'm hoping that if they do have big updates coming for Final Cut and Logic on the Mac, that they don't similarly switch the pricing model to subscriptions. Because if you go by their subscription pricing, I haven't gotten my money's worth of paying $300 for Final Cut yet, because you break even after 6 years if you consider $5 a month versus $300 total, and I've only had it for 2.5. So
you're making me wonder. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I at least hope that if you already have the purchase on your Apple ID, that you don't have to pay again for the subscription model. But
I would guess that this is just a guess, total guess. These changes lead me to believe that we might see a new major version of Final Cut Pro at WWDC. Just a guess, just a sense. I could be totally wrong. And they would say, new version, and if you want this version, it's going to be $10 a month or $15 a month or whatever. And there's going to be a price where you can pay and get the mobile and the version of Mac Final Cut Pro together or something. Again, I want to say this is just me guessing. I have no idea if this will come to fruition. But seeing all these big changes and seeing how hungry Apple is for subscriptions, and the fact that Adobe charges a subscription for their suite of editing apps, why wouldn't Apple do it? I mean, shoot. They're already making headway into it now with Final Cut Pro and Logic on the iPad. I could totally see them saying, yep, if you want to use these apps, now they're all going to be subscription-based, and they can be part of your Apple One subscription if you want. Just add an extra. They're always trying to figure out ways to, get you on that subscription. So I don't know. What do you think about that, chat? Does that seem reasonable? Level Remix saying those prices are highway robbery. Oh, you must be talking about Adobe Creative Cloud. I know you're not talking about Logic Final Cut Pro for $5 a month, right? So there you go. Let me see here. I guess I didn't cover Logic. So let me go ahead and read you what Apple wrote here. Again, I haven't used these because they're not released yet. With multi-touch gestures, music creators can play software instruments and interact naturally with controls, as well as navigate complex projects with pinch to zoom, swipe to scroll, plug in tiles, put the most useful controls at the creator's fingertips. So they're going to have plugins. That's cool. Making it easy to quickly shape sounds. With the built-in mics on iPad, users can capture voice or instrument recordings. And with 5 studio quality mics, okay, yeah, I get it. Creators can also make precision edits. So again, I don't know if John Mayer is going to use this to record his next album, but I think for a lot of kids who are just getting started, like, this is going to be perfect, man. This is way more power than they actually need. And it actually makes your M1 Mac or your M1 iPad worth it. Like, you actually can use all that horsepower that you paid for now.
This is what everybody's been clamoring for, right? Give me some pro apps to run on my iPad Pro. Here you go.
Yeah. You mentioned about professional musicians. A lot of times they record their demos in a much more simple app like GarageBand, and then when they get serious about a song, they take it into Logic, into a studio with a production team and everything. But it could empower people to get more more powerful and more complete and fleshed out demos down, like, on the go. If inspiration strikes on a tour bus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what strikes on a tour bus.
Yeah, I actually think that is probably one of the strongest use cases. Is people can just create anywhere now, and you have an all-in-one tool to create an album. You have an all-in-one tool to create content for social media or your YouTube channel. And as much as I hate to admit it, I've seen a lot of video content out there that was made on a phone. And I'm like, does it look the best? I'm like, no. And I know it doesn't look the best, but I ultimately just don't care. It reminds me of something that Gary Vee said. Someone asked him, is it better to create content quickly or create content that's high quality? And without even thinking about it, he says, create content quickly. And they're like, well, why? He's like, well, because quality is subjective. And I was like, ooh, that hurts. That hurts because you're wasting all this time making sure everything's perfect and spending all this money on, like, the perfect microphones and cameras. And you have people out there who are just pumping out content with their iPhone. And because they're doing it quickly, they're able to land on things that resonate with their audience more quickly. and they're building their channels and their presences online more quickly because they're actually just creating a lot of content. And ultimately, and when I think about it, like the content that I watch the most are the people that release the most content. And sometimes their content's good and sometimes I don't really care for it, but they just keep putting it out. And so I watch it because it's there. So as opposed to someone who is making a piece of content like once every 2 or 3 weeks, like yours truly on my YouTube channel, because I'm such a freaking perfectionist. Let's see here. Oh, I think that's it. That's probably good for Logic Final Cut Pro. To be continued. Once we have a better understanding of what these tools can do, we'll probably talk more about this stuff. But Griffin, I know that some people are clamoring for some of those Final Cut Pro features on the iPhone. Am I right? Some of those features that I saw, I was like, dude, I think these are totally coming to iPhone.
So this is really just a coda to that story. iPhone users want Pro Camera Mode from Final Cut Pro for iPad. You mentioned this sort of in a cursory way as you're going through your Final Cut Pro notes, but on the iPad in Final Cut Pro, not within the camera, but within Final Cut Pro, the app, there's this line where video creators can shoot high-quality video, monitor audio, and available recording time. That's not something you can do in any of Apple's stock apps. I mean, you know, as in watch the levels of audio as they're coming in, see how much space you have left on your iPad and how much longer you can keep shooting 4K 60 FPS HDR content. Unless you have a big iPad, it's not very much time.
Yeah, right.
Manually control settings like focus and white balance. That's not something you can do even on the most expensive iPhone. You sort of have an exposure control, but it's like really hidden. You have to open this menu and then you have to tap this obscure label-less button and do the slider. So it could be that with iPhones coming this fall with the iOS 17 camera app, that you'll have more manual controls just within Apple's own app. I mean, these are all things that are exposed if you want to buy Halide, which is a third-party camera app that gives you like total free-for-all controls on your iPhone. But it's not something that you can do just within the Apple's camera app there. I think it was there's some precedent for this because I think starting with the iPhone 11 Pro, Apple started to differentiate the camera between the Pro phones and the ordinary phones in software only. Like obviously you can tell that they have different hardware because one of them has 3 lenses on the back and one of them has 2. But the camera app itself started to differentiate itself, I think around that time. And I don't know if that's still the case or not, but...
See, I think that some of these features in Final Cut Pro for iPad, I think that these are features they're going to bring to the camera app. I mean, they're just teasing them now. Why would you only make these available in Final Cut Pro and not have them in the camera app on the iPhone, you know, on the Pro level iPhones? I just think that it's pretty clear that they're probably going to bring these over. I would love to see the white balance features. I'm like struggling to come up with the words, and it's literally written here right in front of me. Like the white balance stuff, because I usually when I'm dialing in white balance, I do it by Kelvin, right? So like I know that, you know, 2000 is going to be really warm and 7000 is going to be really blue, and you can't do that on an iPhone, but I would love to be able to because I like to dial in, you know, absolutely everything. So I bet you anything this is going to be a feature of iOS 17 for Pro level iPhones, so they can further delineate between regular iPhones and like.
Oh, and I forgot the other obvious one. The other obvious software difference between the Pro phones and the regular phones is Pro RAW. Like, there's no objective reason why they can't bring Pro RAW to the iPhone 14, but they keep it exclusive to the 14 Pro. That could be another. You know, it's another example of a software difference between the hardware models. Yeah,
well, if they're not going to give you the most powerful hardware every year on the iPhone. But they are going to do that on the iPhone Pro models. They're going to have to give you some extra features in there too, right? They're going to keep trying to make the Pro model iPhones seem like they're worth the money, so that you are willing to keep paying for the more expensive phones. So
like it's all marketing, but it works.
Yeah,
like
sadly it does. Yeah.
I was trying to my wife bought the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and I was like, you know. I know you only really care about the big screen. You can get the 14 Plus, but she wanted the Pro Max because it has a better camera. And I'm sure if I asked her, she wouldn't be able to tell me any of the differences, but she just knew that the Pro Max had the better camera, so she wanted that one.
Who doesn't?
Yeah,
and, I take a lot of pictures using her phone, so I was okay with upgrading. But
yeah, see, I'm the one that takes all the pictures in my family too. I'm like probably in 10 pictures in the last 5 years. My kids will know the sound of my voice because I'm like the narrator behind the camera, but I'm never in any of the dang pictures, So, I mean, I need to have the nice camera because I'm the one documenting all the family stuff. But I'm like, I could give my wife a Polaroid camera. She's gonna barely use the thing. Okay, let's see here. Before we move on, Lewis, I think that we should talk a little bit about the giveaway real fast.
Fantastic idea.
We actually have the giveaway up this time, so it's a prime opportunity to actually show it to people.
Yeah, it's up and running. We're giving away a stylish MacBook case from Switch Easy. It's called the Urban MacBook Sleeve. I don't know if you show people a picture of it. It's made of water-resistant threaded polyester fabric.
I'm bringing it up as we speak.
Polyester material. Let's see. It's got a little pop-out handle that you can use there. It's got a zippered case where you can put in cables and whatever else you need to store in there. It's even got a little tiny secret slot for an AirTag. Ooh, secret spot for an AirTag.
That is handy, actually.
We're giving away 2 of these. They come in 2 sizes. One's 13, 14-inch. One's 15, 16-inch. And so if you go to our giveaway page, which you can find on the front of cultofmac.com, just scroll down to the giveaway area. Click in there. You'll see there's 2 different giveaways, actually. One for each size. So, make sure you enter the one for the size computer that you have or plan to buy, because I hear it might be a good time to buy a Mac.
It's a great time to buy a Mac, yeah. And I can talk more about that here shortly.
Yeah. Anyway, so these cases, they retail for $55 for the 13, 14-inch, $60 for the 15, 16-inch. They look good. Nice way to keep your MacBook getting scuffed up, scraped up, everything. If you don't want to carry it around in a backpack or whatever, it's a nice way to do it. And another fantastic product from Switch Easy. We sell a lot of their stuff in the Cult of Mac store.
Do they make a version of that for the Mac Mini?
I don't know about that.
Would you want it? Where are you carrying your Mac?
I was looking at that. I was like, wow, that looks like a really cool bag. But then I remembered I don't have a laptop. So.
You carry around your Mac Mini and take it to the Starbucks with a screen like that guy with that iMac and that meme, that picture that was circling the internet a while ago. Okay, cool.
I'm looking to see. I don't know if they have them for.
Sorry, I completely derailed you.
That's fine. Let me just say real fast, Lewis, for those people who haven't yet entered, I'll put a link to the show notes, or a link in the show notes rather. And for those of you in the chat, I'll drop it in the chat. You're going to be lazy. You're going to make me do this. You're not going to go to the site by yourself. That's fine. I accept that.
Click and win. Only 4 days left. Get your entries in.
There you go. And look, if you've never entered a giveaway before because you thought you couldn't win, I would give this one a shot because you got a chance. You got a chance to win this. Let's see. And then also, real fast, real quick, I also want to plug iOS Today. iOS Today is a podcast that you can check out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the most from your iPhone. Are we still looking at the browser? Here, let's look at me. Isn't that better?
Wow.
There you go. Give you some eye candy to look at while I talk about this. Get the most from your iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, and Apple TV. Join Micah Sargent, host of the iOS Today podcast, along with Rosemary Orchard. Great name. Every week, they highlight tips, tricks, and hidden features inside your iOS devices. Plus, they cover the latest news and try out the best accessories. Hey, you know what? That sounds familiar. If you like this show, and this show's over, we only did 4 hours of show for you this week, and you're like, yeah, I still want some more show, then why not try out iOS Today? Follow and subscribe to iOS Today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Cast, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, you know who I kind of sound like during that? Hey, you know what I'm saying? Bill Burr. Go check out iOS Today. What are you waiting for? Quit being a loser.
Jeez.
I didn't even know I could do a Bill Burr. I feel like that was a solid 5 out of 10. What'd you think about that Bill Burr, Lewis?
least 50% there. Yeah.
I think if I put a little bit more effort into that, I mean, that was impromptu. I didn't even know I had it in me.
Just lay a little AI on top of that, and you're gold.
Oh, I can do that. I don't know if this will.
How about that? Does that work?
That is so perfect.
I need your routing number and bank account number. This is your mother.
Sounds so much like a Cylon.
Just wait, Lewis, before those things start calling you. Also, look, we got a couple super chats here. We almost never get super chats. I want to make sure I honor and respect these. Adam Broussard, he wants the very enthusiastic yeah. There you go, Adam. I don't want to hear nothing about it, Lewis. And then also, we got one from MacBook Foe, the foe of all MacBooks. Hello, what's the backstory to Mrs. D? Oh man, you're gonna make me go into the story now. I'll do the quick version. To be honest, it's been so long that I almost don't even remember. So I don't like the hello just kept getting drawn out into this ridiculous cartoony hello. And we had Jeff Kanata on, who is a podcaster. Do either of you guys know who Jeff Kanata is? No.
No, sir.
Okay, well, he was on a popular podcast called The Totally Rad Show. This is a while back. The show no longer exists. And we had him on a while ago, and when we did this show opening, he was like, "Who are you supposed to be, Mrs. Doubtfire?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, like I wasn't trying to be, but now that you mention it, that seems like a natural fit." And so that's when I officially transitioned it from just being a long, cartoonish hello to like the official opening of Mrs. Doubtfire herself. And here she is. And now she opens up every single show. And you all know that Mrs. Doubtfire has a great love for LK. They had a budding romance back when we started doing video stuff. And it grew and grew and grew. And now Leander Keeney doesn't do the show with us anymore. But he's still having rendezvous with Mrs. D. So I take credit for that introduction because they are always together doing stuff that you don't even want to know about. That I'm not even sure is legal, even in the state of California, which is surprising because what's not legal there, Lewis? What's not legal?
Enforcing the law is illegal.
Okay, let's see here. Well, let's move on. Let me look at the show notes. I don't even know where we are. That threw me off. Oh yeah, okay. So I want to mention just real quick, if you haven't been following me on Twitter, this is not a plug for my Twitter, but if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm probably going to start doing this more often. I've started noticing some just ridiculous deals on the web from Apple. So, Apple never has sales, but they use their intermediaries to mark down all the products that they're selling. And I saw a couple of deals last week that were bonkers deals. I saw Costco, they might even still be doing this. They're selling the Mac Studio, the base level Mac Studio, which is normally $2,000. They're selling it for $1,500. And I was like, dang, that's a good deal. That is the same discount you would get if you were an Apple employee with your once a year 25% off that you get. So that's a bonkers deal. And I think it might still be going. And then I saw an even better one later in the week from B&H Photo Video. They were selling a 14-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro, a machine that generally costs $4,100. It had 64 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of hard drive, the M1 Max. So a $4,100 machine, they were selling it for $2,500. That is probably the biggest discount that I've ever seen on an Apple product ever. And it was a short-lived deal. Like, I think it was for that day only, and they might even have sold out, before the day ended. And I was like, man, these are some bonkers deals. And then it got me thinking about, like, why is Apple doing this? Well, I think here's why. During the first 3 months of 2023, Apple's total revenue dropped 3% year over year. iPhone's still selling well, but according to IDC, Mac sales were down 40%. 40% in Q1 versus Q1 of the previous year. Now, global PC shipments are down 29% in that same year, so it's not just Apple. But Mac sales being down 40%, I think that what Apple is doing is trying to bolster sales. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but again, I can't imagine why they would do this. They never discount stuff this much. And I'm seeing these kind of sales happen all over the internet. I mean, those are just two that I highlighted, but I keep seeing these deals that are major discounts. And I think it's a recognition from Apple that times are a little bit tougher than maybe in previous years. Now, they don't want to discount their stuff. If you're willing to go into one of those brand new, beautiful Apple stores, they're going to sell you everything at full price. You know, you're practically euphoric walking into those places because they're so beautiful. But if you don't mind shopping online elsewhere at other reputable retailers, but ones that aren't Apple themselves, you can get yourself a pretty serious discount. So I think I'm going to keep posting these on my Twitter at Erfon, ERFON, if you want to follow me, because people seem to be enjoying those. I mean, that 14-inch MacBook Pro deal was so good, I almost wanted to buy one myself. And I have zero reason to. What? Yeah, I just got one. I have the 16-inch, so there's literally no reason. But you know that draw, Lewis? You know that draw when the deal is just so good?
Oh, yeah.
That you're like, I don't even need this, but I just can't let this deal go.
That's a sign of an illness, but
an even better deal is not buying two of the same computer.
Yeah, but then you didn't take advantage of the deal. And then you can't say, oh, man, you won't believe the deal I got on this machine. And you get to tell everyone about it. So I didn't. I don't need it. I literally have the same machine. Now, mine only has 32 gigs of RAM, so that's a problem. But I don't think anyone needs 64, man. Like, unless you're editing like 8K documentary timelines or something. So keep your eyes peeled. If you've been thinking about buying a new Mac, I think the next 6 months are going to be a really great time to make that purchase. I mean, the M1 MacBook Pro, it's kind of like midlife currently, and it looks like Apple's trying to bolster their sales. At least that's what I think is going on, because these sales that I've seen have just been, I don't use this word often, but redonkulous. You guys heard that word?
Yes.
Yeah. It just means hard to believe. So, and I'll keep posting these on my Twitter, like I said. All right.
Thank
well,
you for the definition there.
You're welcome. Redonkulous?
I mean, here's the thing. They're running all of these sales right now because the thing is nobody needs a Mac right now. If you consider, like, in the prior holiday quarter, I mean, just this past holiday quarter, Mac sales were significantly down because they didn't release any new Macs as they normally do in the fall, right before the holidays hit. Like the MacBook Pro and the Mac Mini were delayed until early this year. So you would think that in this past quarter, immediately of like the first 3 months of this year, that you would have like compounding sales of like, a backlog. Everybody who wanted to buy a computer, in December who had to wait, plus all the people who wanted to buy a computer in the spring. Mm-hmm. You would think that you would have all these compounding sales, but that didn't happen either because nobody needs a new Mac right now. The thing is, you had this big like super cycle of people buying the M1 machines in 2020. I mean, as far as global calamities go, that was a pretty well-timed one because everybody was buying computers right after Apple introduced a whole lineup of excellent computers to buy, and so everybody bought them. Then the following year, you had the M1 Pro and the M1 Max come, and the Mac Studio. Everybody bought those. Nobody needs a Mac right now. So Apple came out with the M2 generation, but nobody needs an M2, unless you're a weirdo like me who waited out for way too long and ended up like being forced into buying an M2 Mac Mini. But there's not a lot of people like me. It's a recurring problem in my life. And the iPad is in a troubled spot too. Like iPad sales are also down because people keep iPads for forever.
Oh, yeah.
And if you also think back to 2020, 2020 is when they unveiled the Magic Trackpad with the pointer support. Mm-hmm. And so everybody was buying the iPad Pro back then. Then they sort of dropped the ball on the refresh of the iPad Pro because there were all of these rumors that they were going to completely revamp it, but that just didn't happen. They're switching over the base model iPad from the old design to a new design, which means that both of them are still for sale because they couldn't get the price down. So the iPad lineup is just a mess right now.
Oh, it's
so
been
people
a mess
aren't buying
for years
iPads.
Too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the iPad goes through these phases of everything being in sync. And I was like, yes, that is a perfect lineup of iPads. Everything makes sense. If you want this iPad, you buy that one. If you want this one, you buy that one. But we're in the midst of like a transitionary period in the iPads. So even if you do need to buy an iPad, it's not a good time to buy an iPad. but everybody already has an iPad, so
Oh man, I almost bought an iPad. I don't even need a new one. I'm still using the 2019 iPad Pro. But the thing is they make them so overpowered, and there's no apps that take advantage of that power until
this week.
Until this week. But I saw it was a I forget the price of it. It was an M2 iPad, and the discount was just ridiculous. I was like, I almost can't not buy this, and I resisted. I didn't buy it. But I keep seeing these kinds of deals pop up on M2 iPads, M2 Max, M1 MacBook Pros. I mean, it's just deal after deal after deal. I can't remember a time since we've started the show where I've seen as many deals come in, like good deals where you're saving more than I think you otherwise ever could on all of these really popular products. It's taking a lot of willpower. That's all I'm saying. All right, look, we're running low on time, but we've been going for like 150 hours now. And I'm probably going to have to take another bathroom break soon. But before we do that,
jeez.
I know I started right before the show. I'm like, I'm going to go real fast because I feel like this is going to be a long one. Well, now it's back, Lewis. I got to go again. But I'm going to send it to Griffin to talk about this new company powered by Apple, ex-Apple employees with a new, I would argue, kind of a zany, weird gadget that they think is going to replace your iPhone. I hope that's a good setup for you. That's an alley-oop if ever I heard one. So take it away, Griffin.
So Humane is this startup company. They've been poaching a bunch of Apple employees. I think I heard somebody saying that like 50% of their employees are ex-Apple employees. They've got a lot of credits to their name. They're founded by, I didn't look up how to pronounce his name before the show started, but I am going to say it was founded by
Imran
Chowdhury. He has, you might have heard of the things he's worked on: the iPhone, the Mac, the iPod, the Apple TV, the Apple Watch, AirPods, your beloved HomePod.
Those were on sale too recently.
He met his wife while he was working at Apple on the iPad.
Wow.
She came with him with his new startup. She's the co-founder of the company. They hired Ken Kosienda, the guy who literally wrote the book on Apple's creative process. He's most famous for coming up with the iPhone keyboard, solving that problem on such a small screen. So they have a lot of talent behind them, and you wouldn't really be able to tell because what they came up with is pretty bizarre. So imagine in your mind a tiny little like badge, like lapel thing, about the size of, I don't know, like about the size of a pen that clips to your shirt. And the idea is you can either talk to it, or if you want to interact with it, you hold your hand out in front of you and it projects a little laser image onto your hand. So it can do like 2 lines of text and like a few buttons. In their demo, I think the only time we ever see it in use is when he holds out his hand and it shows a phone call and it says, "Oh, Bethany is calling." And you have like 2 little buttons for pick up or hang up. And it has these cameras and sensors so that it can tell when you tap on the laser projection on your hand. I mean, their whole idea is that this is supposed to be an invisible computer. So you talk to it and it does all of the computery stuff behind the scenes attached to your shirt, and you interact with it just by talking to it predominantly. It's AI powered, and it's allegedly going to free us all from the shackles of our smartphones.
Wow. I'm just watching this demo video for those of you listening. So it's almost like out of the movie Her. I don't know if you guys have seen that with Joaquin Phoenix, where he basically keeps a computer in his pocket. It's like a super powerful computer that he ends up forming a relationship with because it's so lifelike. And it sits in his front pocket, and then when he wants to interact with it, he just holds his hand in front of it, like Griffin just said, and it just shoots like a little laser projection onto his hand. But it's not like a very high-resolution projection. It looks like it's just like one color, and it just communicates information.
Exactly. So this is a replacement phone that can't do most of the things your phone can do with the most tedious user interface imaginable. Like, what do you do on your phone? You read Twitter if you're still into that sort of thing. You read Mastodon if you're if Twitter grosses you out.
What?
You watch videos. You take pictures. You show those pictures to people. Those You can't do that with like 3 lines of text hastily like thrown onto your hands. How do you use this thing if you have pale skin and you're standing outside? The laser's not going to do anything.
Yeah,
it's not going to outperform the sun.
That's a good point.
Let's hope not.
And they're not even the first. Like, so their whole message is we're gonna free these people from their addiction to their phones. If that were actually a problem that people had, then the last 5 startups trying to do the exact same thing wouldn't have disappeared into obscurity, you know? And I just can't. Sure, even if you want to have like a minimal phone that you can talk to with your voice, or like, just tap like a few little buttons and make phone calls on. Sure, maybe that's the only thing you ever want to do. Apple already makes that. It's called the Apple Watch. The cellular Apple Watch can already do everything this can do, and it has a screen that you can see without a complicated laser system shining onto your hands. Even if it's the most powerful, brightest laser in the world, it's never going to have a better contrast ratio than white text on a black screen.
I was talking with Leander about this yesterday, and he was kind of going, "Oh, well, I think we don't really know exactly how great it's going to be. It could be really fantastic." And it's like, yeah, no projector is ever going to be as good as a screen. How could it be? It's just not possible. It's weird. I mean, Leander got really caught up into. He's very excited about it, and he was really like wondering how it was going to work and what it's going to do and all that, and. He said he's more optimistic about it than your opinion post was, but I think you're dead on. I think you made a lot of great points. I mean, the whole aspect of it being almost entirely voice, right? Okay, great. Yeah, that's fantastic when you're the only person in the room. But like you said, like, how are you going to use this anywhere else? How do you and maybe it's better than Siri. I mean, what a surprise that a demo goes well. I mean, of course it can answer the questions that you ask it, right? One of the things that the guy did in the demo, I don't think you saw this yet, Irfan, he says he holds up a candy bar and he says, hey, can I eat this? And the thing, sees the candy bar, recognizes what it is, and says something like, that's a cocoa milk bar, and because of your, intolerance, you shouldn't eat it, or something like that.
Huh.
And okay, the thing that I found the most interesting about their whole appeal is they were talking about it as your AI. They consistently refer to it as your AI. And that to me was interesting because they're talking about a custom AI that learns about you, as opposed to just what we have now, which is AI, which sucks in whatever from the internet and is, does amazing things. But this concept of it being your AI, where it knows, that you have gluten intolerance, or it knows that you shouldn't be drinking beer at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, et cetera, et cetera. All these things that it could know and learn about you. It knows that you prefer to have a car with a stick shift when you rent one, right? That could be powerful, and certainly Apple and Siri could use some of that kind of smarts. And
here's the thing. That could be powerful, but it could also be on the phone that you already have.
Oh, I know. I'm not making I'm not making an argument for this device, but I think that was the one powerful concept that they had.
Yeah.
Was personalized AI that actually is helpful. And that is kind of cool if you can hold up. Again, that was a demo, right? So of course it's going to say exactly what it said. But if there were things like that it could do that were actually useful and personalized to you, that I could see how that could be an important sort of feature. But yeah, replace a phone? No. In their defense, they didn't say iPhone killer, But they have made a lot of comments like, oh, well, the phone is the past and, this is the way forward. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the same pitch that Apple makes on stage when they're showing off their reality headset. The phone is the past. Here's the new phone. And I'm like, that's like saying the keyboard is a thing of the past, man. The steering wheel is a thing of the past. Eventually, it will be a thing of the past, both those things, but they're really good inventions. And I just haven't seen anything that is going to replace either of them anytime soon. Anyway, look. I got to start up the music.
You've had enough.
It's almost 2 p.m. We got to get out of here, man. I got an appointment in 3 minutes.
Time for beer.
The music's coming on. I know that Lewis is dying for his 4th or 5th beer of the day. So that's it. That's all the CultCast we have for you guys this week. But if you want to come tell us about your favorite tech, maybe there's something we should review. Lewis and I are both on Twitter. I'm at Arifon, ERFN. Lewis is at Lewis Wallace. You can just search for Griffin. Just search the word Griffin. That's all you need to find him on Mastodon. There's
Griffin
only one
plus
Griffin.
Mastodon.
There's only one Griffin there, so he'll come. Right up. This has been the CultCast, the best 30+ minute Apple conversation you're gonna hear all week long. New episodes of the CultCast come out every Thursday night. Thanks to everyone for listening, for hanging out live, and we will see you guys. Lewis is bobbing. Look at him bobbing. He's going. He's ready to go. Next time. Oh, man. That was some soulful bobbing you got going on there, Lewis. Now you can get back to doing the thing that you love doing. Drinking and disciplining
we forgot to
Math
talk
writers.
about the HomePod update.
The HomePod update.
Another kick in the teeth.
We'll definitely
People
do
are
that.
actually requesting the HomePod update. Come on.
We'll definitely do that next time. We forgot the banking update, too.
Yawn.
I take full responsibility. All right, I'm hovering towards the end stream button as we speak. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Bye, y'all.
We made it.
Oh, man.